I'm Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of Newberry.
Thank you. I'm Mike New. As the mayor said, I'm a city manager for the city of Newberry.
Thanks for being here. Have you had a similar meeting like this one in the city of Newberry with your citizens about this facility?
We've not specifically had an agenda item to discuss this.
We actually did, and Mike alluded to it, we had it on a P&Z meeting, and Mike doesn't generally attend those, but we had about...
We are talking about changing the land use. Now, what actually goes into that land is not the topic of the quasi-judicial procedures. Public could mean a lot of things. It could mean the meatpacking plant. It could mean a lot of other things. The meatpacking plant is not a discussion on this quasi-judicial. I know we get very heartstrung and want to talk about what's going to happen in that public use. However, that is not what's being discussed. It's just agricultural public use.
We had about 8 residents show up. By the end of the presentation, we had one resident get up and speak and say, you guys addressed all of our concerns.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
So I'll open it up to public comments at this moment.
Do you know what part of the 96 acres the 15 acres would be on? Because West 1 is just directly to the north, and that's a pretty dense neighborhood. So if it'd be right up against that, it might not be so good. I mean, south or east.
But my concern is I just want to protect my quality of life that I've worked so hard to have here. So that's my only concern, is the buffer where we're at.
But I do also want to make sure that the value of my property doesn't drop because we don't do this in a, thoughtful way.
So my question is when are we going to, and if we are going to have the ability as public to contest any of this?
I got the letter. I didn't know what was going on until I got here tonight.
But we will absolutely continue to have public conversations.
I think it would be important. I mean, I think
some local farmers were contacted about this, but why? That's not the general public who lives in the community. It needs to be outreach to the community, to the regular, to me who had no idea that until this meeting, which isn't, I live in Newberry, I just found out about an Alachua County meeting, not even my Newberry.
Thank you, sir.
The city of Newberry is excited about this.
But are we going to be able to have any kind of part in that decision process?
How am I going to be notified when you're going to start talking about these development things?
Madam Chair, I would just mention that I was asked earlier about public discussion about this project in Newberry, and we've had none scheduled. We had one kind of impromptu at a planning and zoning board meeting.
The first meeting this was ever agended before this board was December 6th. And that is in an email from Chair Perizia that there were no other government meetings of this board on this issue except for December 6th and today.
As a Newberry resident who lives a few miles from the proposed location, I wasn't aware of this proposed plan until it became public in the news just a few weeks ago. As the mayor and city manager stated, this topic has only spontaneously came up once in a public meeting but was not on the agenda. For this plan to be so far developed without resident input and for the multiple meetings that have taken place without public knowledge, that violates the Sunshine Law.
I've stood firmly on the fact this is an already baked project, that this meeting should have taken place in August or July of 2021 after you were awarded the first round of ARPA funding, and it was mentioned in a meeting.
Newberry hasn't even had a meeting with the citizens of Newberry. I heard from the ranchers of Newberry. I've heard from them. But I heard from 4 other people that live in Newberry that said, don't do this. Don't do this to my community. They need to go have that public meeting and then come back to us and say, you know what, Commissioner, you were wrong. Everybody supports it. Or you know what, Commissioner? You're right. Let's slow this thing down.
By the end of the presentation, we had one resident get up and speak and say, you guys addressed all of our concerns.
I'm Beth Fields. I live in Country Way, so I live pretty close to where the water treatment plant is. But I would like the board to keep into consideration that the elementary school is right there. And I don't think you want some really heavy smells or, you know, things that the children have to be exposed to that they shouldn't have to be.
From sitting in the restaurants, from sitting in the classroom, from sitting at the ball games, Newberry is excited about this.
Even though this is an indoor facility, you can still smell it. There's exhaust systems to release this. I've had friends who have had to move, who've been within miles from these facilities, and they've had to move because of the smell.
Right next to a wastewater facility, so we figure the smells will kind of commingle at that point.